Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Cindy Parker. Wait, no, I'm Glenn Williams, and I'm a member of our Board of Trustees, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. If you're visiting and would like more information about our congregation, please stop at the visitors table in the fellowship hall. We will be happy to answer your questions. And today's a special day for people who are new to us. Immediately following the service today, there will be an informal visitors and newcomers chat in the front of the sanctuary. The visitors and newcomers chat is held the first Sunday of every month. It's an opportunity to learn more about our church. And if you're a visitor or newcomer, please consider joining us. Also, after the service, we don't have to rush outside into the rain. We no longer are saying people need to disperse quickly. It's fine to hang out here as long as you have your mask and you are careful. A reminder to turn off your cell phone. And once again, welcome.
Wow. I light our chalice this morning in honor of Albert Baxter Moore, whose celebration of life we hosted here yesterday. And with these words by Albert Taylander, we hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. And I could say you can all go home now, because I think everything that I might have wanted to say was contained in that amazing prelude. Derek, it is so wonderful to have you back in the sanctuary playing our piano. But being a minister, I can't leave it there. I do have a few things to say. And I offer these opening words by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. We who have learned so well how to keep going, come here to pause, to slow down the headlines, the decisions, the daily worries of what is worth the risk. We come to cease the weighing of joy, to let it all simply be, to let ourselves be here, held in a story bigger than any of us, held in community that is breathing together. In this one place, this precious hour, we come to be carried along in our unknowing, safe in this place that holds all our stories, ancient and newborn. We come to listen to the wisdom in the walls, witness to all those who have come before, ready to receive all who will come next. Here, we behold each other, holding all our dimensions in awe, grateful for the pleasure of ordinary bodies sitting in chairs together without mediation or buffering. We come seeking courage for this one life because we know, even now, even still, we are not done with our changes. Come, let us worship together. It's on me. There was an on-off switch. And Judd is just like, he went like this, and I knew exactly what he meant. So this is your Ministerial Search Committee. At our congregational meeting back in June, you all voted to affirm these 7 people as your Ministerial Search Committee. We blessed them at that meeting, but now that we're able to be together in person, I wanted to bring them forward and thank them for their work and give you all a chance to express your appreciation for them. Members of the Ministerial Search Team, you were chosen because of your gifts and because of your commitment to this congregation. You were chosen because you are trusted to carry forward the best of the past while keeping your sights on the future. Thank you for saying yes. To the congregation, will you now affirm your trust in the Ministerial Search Committee? Yes. And do you pledge to cooperate with them and support them in their work? Yes. And search committee members, in the weeks and months to come, you will be helping this congregation to understand itself better and what it wants and needs in its next ministerial leader. You will have the enriching experience of learning about and communicating with a number of ministers who are in search for a new congregation to serve, and eventually you will be making that most important decision when you choose a candidate to bring forward from among the ministers in search, based on your best discernment about those ministers and this amazing congregation. Do you, search team, commit yourself to this essential work with your colleagues on the committee and with your church?
Yes.
Now, I want to remind you that I am bound ethically and will live up to the charge to me not to discuss with you all any specific candidates for the job. But I am here to serve as your pastor and your cheerleader and to assist you in your process however needed. Call on me. And now let the people say thank you. Thank you. And let the people say amen. Amen. Thank you, search team. Yay!
Trustee, who was missing?
Was somebody missing? David Julene. Oh, thank you for noticing. I didn't count. So David couldn't be here this morning. Had I known, I would have put his picture up, but or a picture of him like on the phone. Remember they used to do that on the news before we had Skype? All the things, all the changes we have witnessed. All right, now for something quite different. You know that we're not able to sing together, which is very sad. I know, this is a very musical congregation. But we can hum. So I'm going to ask you to hum with me, keeping your mask on, and I'm going to use this little looper pedal to help the humming continue. Breathe when you need to. I don't want anyone passing out on this. That would completely defeat the purpose of this meditation. So let us hum together. That's right, find the harmonies. Just keep breathing when you need to and come back into the humming when you can. This is Part and Parcel by Mark Bellatini. I am part of you, O truth unfolding. I am part of you. I am part of a cosmos I cannot see, either its edge or its end. How amazing. I am part of a galaxy of 1,000,000 billion stars. They say it's a pinwheel. How wonderful. I am part of a system of planets that swing around a small parent star. How strong the hands of invisible gravity must be to hold it all together just so. Part of a planet green and blue, along with mountains and seas, sponges and spores, lichen and lava, robins and rain, periwinkles and perch, centipedes and cities. How great the variety, how astonishing the mutual dependence of it all. I am part of a species that belongs to a grouping of animals called mammalia, and so is every other human being, equally so. I am part of a political unit called a nation. There are many nations, each of them dear in many ways to its local citizens. I am part of a circle of friends rooted not in ethnicity or food, but in simple, redemptive love. I am part of a climate region, part of a state, part of a city, part of a neighborhood, part of a congregation, and part of a staff. And with you, I am part and parcel of this moment, this simple silence which lasts but a few breaths and then is gone forever. But like cosmos, galaxy, planet, species, nation, climate, city, neighborhood, family, and circles of friendship, it is precious, a present for which I give thanks. Bum, bum, bum.
Okay. That's a little hard. Hi, I'm Sue Labes. I'm on the pastoral care team. And today, in the book, Stephanie and Ren Bernier ask that anyone who knew their beloved son, Ben, think of him this week as they mark 2 years of missing him in their daily lives. And Steve and I would like to say that our daughter, Sarah, who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in February, is now in a clinical trial and taking some drugs that target her particular kind of cancer, and it seems to be working. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you. And if there are any other people who would like to express joys or sorrows, please come up to us after the service. Thank you very much.
Let us pray together. Spirit of life and love, we are grateful for the advances in medical science that make treatment of many illnesses possible and better, more effective. We pray that those advancements will continue and that our loved ones who are ill will benefit from that care. We hold in our hearts all those who have lost loved ones and who grieve still. That empty place at the table, that empty space in our hearts. May we be reminded that we hold these joys and sorrows together. Perhaps one of the most miraculous developments of all is that we matter to each other. May it ever be so. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe.
Teresa Honey Youngblood, who wrote this. A meditation begins with the quotation, I think you can see it on your screen, from Thomas Wolfe. Some things will never change. Some things will always be the same. Lean down your ear upon the earth and listen. They don't call it heat lightning here. They don't call them hurricane lilies. And the early summer frog songs feature some familiar voices, but the one that sounds like a grumpy little dog barking is missing. The Ozarks are just as stunning as everyone said they were, but they're not the wild swamplands of Florida that we left behind. Stubbornly, I point out these discrepancies to my children, willing them to remember the vocabulary of our shared homeland. But when we left, they were of such an age that they hadn't yet built up such loyalties. And after a while, they look at me with benign tolerance when I describe to them the smell of orange blossoms that floated through the window as I sang them to sleep. Or the way they'd gorge on juicy you-pick persimmons until their small stomachs bulged so much I had to adjust their car seat buckles on the way home. They don't share my memories. They hear them like words from a story that trails off nebulously. Then, what happened? They ask. Well, then we moved. People move for places, for jobs. They move places for jobs, relations, opportunities, escape. We also move from partnered to single, or we move from an empty nest to raising grandchildren, or from able-bodied to disabled. The shorthand of our life before becomes cumbersome, unable to connect us to the people around us, hindering our ability to put down new roots. And yet, we carry a constancy, the still, quiet voice within that knows the difference between the window dressing and the big, wide, beautiful world beyond the window. We feed this wise little voice with prayer, breath, song, service, bare feet walking circles on the ground, slow-cooked soup, gentle gazes held when words fail. The author concludes with a prayer. Spirit, help us to remember we are already at home anywhere we may be on the interconnected web of all existence, that we are never untethered from the oneness that abides all space and time.
One of the ways that we live our UU values in the larger world is by sharing our offering each week with a local organization that shares our values. And for the month of October, our offering is shared with the Mid-Coast Humane Society. Perhaps one of you has a dog or a cat who rescued you. So in honor of them, I would encourage us all to give generously to the mission of this congregation and to the Mid-Coast Humane Society. The morning offering will now be gratefully received. And let us say together these words. May these offerings sustain and grow the work of this church, weaving a tapestry of love and action. So good to see you. The circle is a sacred symbol. There are circles of community, circles of healing. We offer rings as part of the wedding ceremony as a symbol of the unbroken and unbreakable circle of love. Arms encircle us. But there are some negative associations with circles too, like when we fail to make progress on something, we might say that we're going in circles or spinning our wheels. Do you ever feel like you're going in circles? Right? Especially during this pandemic. During the time that we were really locked down, didn't one day look and feel just like any other? One of the great things about coming back to worship in person on Sunday is that I always know what day of the week it is. Yesterday, which was Saturday, which I know because today is Sunday and I'm here. Yesterday, I had the honor of participating in a march for women's lives on the Brunswick Town Mall. Some of you were there, and I had the honor of offering the invocation. And I was deeply honored to do it, but I'm also incredibly frustrated that we are here again, fighting for reproductive rights, nearly 50 years since Roe v. Wade. And I've got to say, if in my younger days I had found myself pregnant and was considering possibly needing to have an abortion, I don't think I'd want people cheering and yelling and holding up signs and having rallies, right? It's a private and painful decision. So even when we win, right, what's the victory? But we get pulled into these same old battles. Doesn't it feel like we're just waging the same old battles, like nothing has changed in all that time? Aren't we just going in circles? Well, yes and no. Circles are closed, right? Beginning and ending in the same place. And that is not where we are. Certainly there are some well-established patterns, and yes, a lot of the same old stuff keeps happening. But we are in a different place, individually and collectively. There is new technology that makes communication possible across great distances to large groups of people almost instantaneously. How many hundreds of thousands of people gathered in outrage after the last administration took office? Even with concerted pressure on voting rights, people turned out in this last election in record numbers. New voters, disgruntled former voters came back. Not just the same old thing, but actually looking at what went before with a new perspective, from a new vantage point, and perhaps making different decisions, engaging differently. And goodness knows we need new strategies for combating the forces that are lined up against fairness and equal access to voting, and you name it, all the good things that we want for ourselves and for each other. There are forces united against making those good things happen. The same old struggles. And we need to look at them in new ways with new tools if we want a different outcome. In this interim time that we have together, one of our primary tasks is coming to terms with history And sometimes when I mention that phrase in the congregations that I'm working with, I feel this uneasiness, this tension. It sounds so ominous, doesn't it? Coming to terms with history. And I think it is meant to have us take notice that telling your story in as complete a way as possible is important. Now, I know you have been in transition before, not just ministerial transition, but over your nearly 209 years as a congregation, you've been through some things. Moved buildings several times, endured not one but two fires in your life as a church. And you have risen out of the ashes, literally, to create and sustain a vibrant, loving, justice-seeking community of faith. And maybe talking about the past can feel like you're going in circles. Because, as I said, circles are closed shapes. They don't go anywhere. But revisiting the past from a new vantage point isn't a circle, a spinning of wheels. It's a spiral, looking backward and moving forward. And that's the approach that we need. To be willing to look at our own history with new knowledge, new wisdom, new perspectives, a spiral, sometimes moving up into what is next, sometimes drilling down to understand more deeply what went before, and letting yourselves imagine springing forth to your next chapter. I should have a visual of a slinky right here for that. Springing forth. You have a rich and interesting history, and much of that history is well documented. You have roots in both Universalism and Unitarianism in Brunswick and the surrounding area. What's the difference between a Universalist and a Unitarian? A Universalist understands that God is too good to condemn any of us to hell. Unitarians understand that we are too good for God to condemn any of us to hell. And you've got both. Am I right? In your published history, there are dates and names of people, and even there are some anecdotes and analysis of the meaning of events sprinkled in. When I was applying for jobs as an interim minister, your story moved you to the top of my list before I even met your fabulous interim search team of Glenn Williams and Paul Peranto and Penny Elwell. The way you told the story of the fire of 2011, a devastating loss to be sure, and yet in the story you tell now, one of the gifts from that experience was when the bell was taken down and you saw for the first time in many generations what was inscribed there. Ring out joy. It still gets me. I read that story and I sent it to Dale, and Brunswick became her first choice too, which was really good because there were closer places, but this was her first choice. You have a compelling story and you tell it beautifully. And your story didn't end in 2014 when you moved into this beautiful new space, right? Your history, your story continues and needs to be told. And I think there may be room for circling back and adding in some richer detail to the stories that you have shared. One thing missing from your history, and the history of most congregations I know, is the story of conflict. Now, maybe there's never been any conflict here. And I'm not suggesting that we need to publish every internal squabble, but somewhere that story should be told too, especially to your new minister. What happened in this congregation during the Vietnam War, for example? Many churches were divided over that war and other wars since then. How has this congregation engaged conflict around big events like that? I know that there have been some disagreements and hurt feelings over policy decisions that your board has made. That is something we could talk about, not to go in circles, but to look back and see where we are now in our process for engaging conflict? What about the welcoming congregation and the green sanctuary decisions? How did you come to consensus? I imagine some conversations around your decision to hang a Black Lives Matter banner was difficult. Race and racism are so tricky to talk about. How did you manage that? What might you do differently going forward? For sure, there will be other tricky issues. And not just conflict, though conflict is important, but what about those tiny sacred moments that make up a life, including the life of a community, of a congregation? I was thinking about this, and you know how when you go to a museum, there'll be a picture or an exhibit, and then there's a button you can push, and a story will appear, like a video? What if we embedded things like that in the excellent history that you've already written with links to pictures, interviews, songs, stories? We could make the traditional timeline come to life. Our transition team and I will be working on a way to bring this history to life, to capture the stories of people who remember what went before. And this will certainly benefit the search team and be of interest to ministers looking for a settled position. But I think the telling of the story and the hearing of the stories will also enrich your connections to each other. So here's an example of what I mean, the kind of like a small sacred moment story. I went to a small private school for 5th through 9th grade. It was founded in 1784. It's the oldest private coeducational school in America. They're very proud of that. And their motto, what some might call a mission statement, is improve both heart and mind. And that was the founding mission. And the imagery that goes with that is this very kind of old-fashioned cutout of like a cameo of a silhouette of a head and a heart, and it says, improve both. It's brilliant. It's been their main symbol for hundreds of years now. But how do you demonstrate living that value, improve both heart and mind? Certainly they could talk about their academics. But I was reminded of something that happened to me there. I started there in 5th grade. I had gone to public school prior to that, and I found the transition difficult. It was kind of challenging academically and socially. I had been in, large classrooms, and now there were much smaller, no place to hide if you didn't know the answer. And my homeroom teacher and also the science teacher was Mr. Stewart, and he was a little scary and gruff, as I recall, but and I wasn't a very scientifically oriented kid. I had trouble in the class at first, but, kind of by the end of the school year did better. And then that summer, I was out with my parents at the carnival that visits my hometown every summer. Scituate, Massachusetts, there's a carnival every summer. And I was there, and across the way, I saw Mr. Stewart. And his eyes lit up, and he smiled so broadly that I think I looked behind me to see. And he said my name, Justine, as if I were like the person he'd been waiting for. And I realized that I had never experienced that kind of joyful greeting from an adult outside my family. And it was, 50 years later, I still get misty remembering it. They lived that, right? Improve both heart and mind, be a loving community. And I have remembered that story. I think that's a story that, like, the development office would probably love to hear. Maybe I should share it with them. But these are the sacred moments that we can share with one another and that will make your history come alive. Circling back with fresh eyes, a sacred spiral of celebration and memory and learning. And sharing these wonderful stories will allow you to look back together like pulling out the photo album at a family gathering. As a congregation, you have a rich history of working for social justice. You feed the hungry. You help provide shelter for people without housing. You're kind to animals with the Humane Society. You share your offering plate with local nonprofits, contributing financially to organizations that share our UU values. You invite thought leaders and activists to speak and lead worship. You are making a difference in this aching world of ours. I was thinking of a recent conversation I had with some colleagues about the state of things, and in particular, the outrage I feel, maybe you feel it too, that once again, a woman's right to determine when and whether to remain pregnant was up for grabs. A wise senior colleague, a white woman, offered that we white women should think about that frustration and outrage that we are feeling and imagine that maybe that is how people of color feel when time after time after time the same things keep happening and white people don't seem to get it. At risk for trauma at any moment because of your identity, because of who you are. It was one of those aha moments for me, not a new idea, but from this new place, looking back, I understood it more deeply, not a circle, but a spiral. Looking back and moving forward. This is the work. Doing new things, yes. Taking on new challenges, yes. But also being willing to take what we learn and look back to see what has changed. Right? There are still new books coming out about the Civil War based on things we understand now. How have we grown and changed? Knowing what we know now, what might we do differently? Not to berate, not to punish, not to shame, but to learn, to grow, to repair so that we can move forward together with no one left behind. The circle is a symbol of continuity. The spiral is a symbol of energy and movement, leading us more deeply inward toward our own center. Looking back while moving forward, we needn't shrink from our history, worried about what it might reveal, or feeling tired of going in circles. Where we have been and who we have been need not determine our future, but they can inform it if we look and listen and learn. So let us enter that labyrinth of spirals and circles and find our essential story together. May it be so. Beloveds, we will get there. I know we will. Blessings.